Good morning, all aspiring teachers. Today I'm going to let you know on a little secret that anyone can become an effective literacy teacher. Teaching literacy is known by a variety of teachers to be the hardest curriculum to teach. At first glance, literacy doesn't look as hard as it truly is. It isn't just about reading the words slowly and the students copying you straight after, or making the students trace letters for them to understand it. There are a number of things that need to be considered when teaching literacy. These include things such as the multiple intelligences, where students encounter literacy, their own literate experiences and how you can draw from your past experiences, how to include the curriculum, and finally, the social model of literacy. In my experience as being on prac, I was lucky enough that I didn't have to teach literacy to the students. If I was fronted with this problem during that time, I probably would have tried to get out of it, or even let the supervising teacher know that my abilities in teaching literacy to the students were below satisfactory. When I spoke to another lecturer about these issues I was having, she gave me a few pointers. With the insight that she gave me, it brought upon the discussion within myself that if I was to teach literacy to some young students, I may not come across clear with my points from their perspectives. So in order to come across clear to all the students, I would have to take careful consideration of the multiple intelligence presented by Howard Gardner. Gardner suggested that there were 7 types of intelligences. These include visual spatial, bodily kinesthetic, musical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, linguistic, and logical mathematical. Sometimes I believe we take literacy for granted and cannot fully grasp how much literacy there is at home, in school, and within the community for everyone to see. At home, you see a lot of literacy that you've never really noticed before. Just simple things like reading the time off the clock or using the microwave to cook food are just 2 basic examples of ways in which everyone uses literacy at home and barely even realizes the skills that are being used. At school, the literate experiences were quite different to home, as we had literature circles or book clubs. This can help students dramatically with their literacy skills, as they could hear the other students in the group reading so confidently, and it motivates them to try harder to read at a higher level. Students would not even realize the extent to which their literacy abilities are being tested while they are at school, and even perhaps on their way to school. Examples of this include objects such as reading the clock, watching TV, comprehending roadwork signs, understanding speed limit signs, and reading the radio station channel. These examples clearly show that the multiple intelligences that Howard Gardner has put forward are being used throughout our lives wherever we are, and that even ourselves are still using literacy more than we can ever fathom. Using these techniques are an excellent example on how you can point out to the students that they are good at literacy without them even realizing it. My observations of literacy during my professional experience have been quite large. The observation of kindergarten literacy was the most insightful, as it had myself grasp the concept of the amount of work that has to be put in for the students to learn the most effectively. With the kindergarten students, I feel as though it is the utmost important year to develop their literacy abilities, as it is laying down the foundation for every other year to follow. If anyone can get a look into how kindergarten literacy classes are run, it will give you invaluable insights on how the teachers teach literacy and why they do certain things. An example of an excellent way that teachers and myself teach literacy is through using phonics. Using phonics lessons just on worksheets isn't going to help the students develop this knowledge. I personally feel that using children's book will drastically improve the students' ability in reading, writing, listening, and viewing concepts. This technique can be easily adopted for a beginning teacher to a well-experienced teacher, as it is more student-centered and isn't getting the students to just trace over the letter to practice. However, when doing this, you have to take into consideration that some students may like to do activities such as worksheets and tracing letters due to the fact that every student learns in a different way, and this is especially expressed by Howard Gardner. An excellent and invaluable tool to help you when becoming a literate teacher is by drawing from your own literacy experiences. If you can draw from your own personal experiences, you can possibly bring something new to the table of education and provide the students with a different way of learning which can suit their style of learning better than others. There's a cliche saying of quality over quantity, and I vigorously believe in that when it comes to becoming a literate teacher. There are 4 key elements to be used when teaching students literacy. These include code breaking, text user, text participant, and text analyst. Examples of excellent techniques for teaching literacy that anyone can use include using things such as children's books and songs to help them with the foundation of phonics, or possibly finding out what their interests are and using this as a basis for the lessons to help the students who are struggling. This concept is known as code breaking. Within reading these books, for example, Wombat Stew, you would have the students try and describe the characteristics of the animal, such as the wombat if you were focusing on the letter W. This concept is known as text participant. Also, you would use the concept of bullying that is used throughout a book like this and reinforce that bullying is not okay and should not be tolerated by anyone. This concept is known as text user. Finally, you would use a book as a guideline for the students to be able to form ideas in the chronological order they were produced. For example, you would make laminated cards of significant moments within the book and have the class order these moments in chronological order. This concept is known as text analyst. The social model of literacy is quite a complicated structure. However, with the right teaching practices included, it can become quite an easy procedure to follow. The 4 practices within include code breaking, meaning making, finding out the purpose, and critical analysis. As you can see within this picture, the funds of knowledge, the cultural capital, context of culture, and the social capital form the framework for the social model of literacy. Inside this framework, you can see that the 4 components of code breaking, meaning making, finding out the purpose, and critically analysing. The social model of literacy will help you drastically in becoming an effective teacher, as it has you incorporate the roles and relationships, physical circumstances, subject matter, and language. Without knowing the social model of literacy, personally I would struggle quite a lot in teaching students about literacy. It is clearly evident that throughout this presentation that everyone can become an effective literate teacher. It doesn't matter what kind of background you come from or any outside factors. All that matters is that you are willing to connect with the students and do whatever you can to teach them the most effective way you feel possible. With using techniques such as code breaking, text user, text participant, and text analyst, and finally, the social model of literacy, you will find that teaching these students is much easier than anticipated and is enjoyable for all. Thank you.